And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Cosmic Encounter Cosmic Alliance expansion. I really don't care what they call a Cosmic Encounter expansion. It should just say, you will buy me Tom Vasel. Because really that's what's going to happen. I love Cosmic Encounter, and if they add more aliens, I'm happy. And they did. I'm going to show you what they added in this expansion. Of course, the big thing of this expansion is the Alliance part. Is it worth it? You'll see. So the first thing the game comes with is a whole bunch of white spaceships and white planets to add another player to the game. White's always a good color. It's a nice contrast to the black. That was in another expansion. There's also a bunch of tokens for one of the bad guy races. There is a whole pile of more new flares. And then there's a new set of cards and destiny cards for the white. But there's also a new set of cards that will be used in the Alliance portion. So let's talk about the Alliance portion real quick. Now that you can have gigantic games, you can play an Alliance game in which players who are across from each other are on the same team. And if you play an odd number of players, one guy's by himself, but he'll get double turns and he just has to win by himself. The Alliance works together. You can't actually fight one another. However, you can, if two other people are fighting, you can both ally with opposite sides. But for the most part, you are trying to help your opponent. You can even give them a planet that you've gotten. And these extra cards are just added into the deck. These extra negotiates and attack cards are added into the deck for that purpose. And that's basically it. There's not a whole lot of huge changes to the game. Except that you can't attack your opponent's players or your partner's players. Now, that's not why you're here to watch this review, I'm sure, though. You're more interested in the new aliens. All right, let's take a look at some of these. We got Lightning, and we have the Sting, and we have the Sapien, and we have the Crystal, and we have the Reborn, and we have the Chrysalis, and we have the Gorgon, and we have Poison, and we have the Bandit, and we have the Cyborg, and we have the Remote. Okay, let's stop. The Remote is neat because he has the power to control. Haha, that makes me laugh. But in a battle, he can take one of the ships in the encounter and turn it into a remote. And in the future, he can use that remote to make that player help him or ally with him, even if they were originally planning to ally against him. Very fun one. The winner, if you win by 10 or more, you can gain an extra colony. Since that's true, this is a very despised opponent, and so people are always very cautious when they're fighting against this guy. Lots of fun, very interesting. The Pygmy, you get extra planets, but your planets only count as half a planet when someone else conquers them. So what's the point of conquering a Pygmy? Well, they're irritating. That's one. The Horde, that's what all these extra tokens are for, because when you are the Horde, you are going to have a ton of extra ships. Whenever you draw a card, whenever you retrieve a ship from the warp, you get another ship, and they show up on your planet. So you can drop one ship down, and pretty soon you have tons of ships all over the place. They're not that powerful, really, but they're fun to use, and they have one of the coolest pictures of any of the aliens there is. The General lets you draw extra cards, and people who help you draw cards. A great card, if very simplistic. The Animal, who has the power to party. I like this one quite a bit because if people don't ask you to ally with them, then you can force them to lose a ship. Because come on, man, I want to be on your team. And also, if you win, everyone gets a card. Yay! The Butler, he serves people. He will turn the cards over. He will give you things. He has to help you out, and you have to give him a tip. Okay, you have to obey his. You have to get a tip of cards or something, and then he has to obey you. So he can win by serving other players. The Skeptic, you can doubt that someone else is going to win. The Extortionist, and then I saved this one for last because this is one of the aliens from the original game way back when, and the Schizoid comes with some cards. Okay, he has these cards here that he is going to take. And so, for example, this one is the Relocator. This says, to win a game, a player must have at least 3 foreign colonies in the same system. And so the schizoid is going to look through his cards. He might pick that one, or he might pick this one, which says to win the game, a player must have at least 3 foreign colonies and then draw a new hand. Or this one, which says to win the game, a player must have at least 3 foreign colonies and then successfully reestablish a home colony on a home planet he or she lost. Or to win the game, a player must have a hand, have at least 3 foreign colonies, and then successfully make a deal. So you have these different cards, and you're going to pick one of them at the beginning of the game. And that is the winning condition. It's secret. No one else knows what it is, and you can flip that over at any time. But players should know that the game has kind of toned the schizoid down, because he could... in the original one, he could write down pretty much any victory condition he wants. Now, he has to pick one of several, but it's still a neat idea. And in fact, it's such a neat idea that the game actually has 2 schizoid cards. They have the classic schizoid, and then they have a new one. And the classic one they had because you could actually write down your own ending condition. Now, I personally would rather play with that, but you have to be careful who's playing a schizoid then, because they have to write down something that makes sense. It has to be possible for everyone to meet, be clear, not require remembering past events, and you have to have at least 3 foreign colonies. But still, it's a neat idea, one of the more complicated aliens, and I can see why they waited to this expansion to throw it in. But it's a neat one, and one of the few aliens in the set that requires extra pieces. Well, there you have it. Cosmic Encounter, the Cosmic Alliance. Let's talk about the Alliance part first. That's an interesting idea, but I've always liked the shifting nature of the alliances in Cosmic Encounter. I like the fact that I might be working with you this time, but we're about to switch, and I'm going to work with Joe now, and now I'm going to go with Sam or Bob or what have you. Yes, you can kind of work against each other, being on teams, but it's interesting. And it's not bad, but it's not something I want to do very often. The new aliens, awesomeness. Awesomeness. The new white color, great. Adding more ships to the game, adding the possibility for 8 players, which is a completely outrageous way to play Cosmic Encounter, but I will do so. So I like that addition to the game, the aliens and such. And the alliance part, it's not a bad thing. So hey, you can now play huge games of Cosmic Encounter. But you know what? If they had just put 20 more aliens in the box, I would have got it for that too. So you have to take that with a grain of salt.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.